Hello everyone, my name is Liv and welcome to my third episode in my recent reads book talk while I'm drinking coffee. So I made my coffee. I wanted it to be an iced coffee, but the ice melted because it's a little hot out today, but we're gonna just chuck on along with that. I also decided to change up my location because I want to do unconventional settings that aren't typically in my bedroom for this particular series that I'm doing on my channel. And I brought down these plants that are usually hanging up here because I wanted you to see them. This is Mrs. Maisel and this is Evelyn Hugo. They're going to be behind me while I talk about the books that I recently read. We are up to, I believe, 21 to 30 books. Let's just get right into it. Let's talk about the books I recently read. So the first book that I recently read a month ago or two, I believe, is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was gifted to me by Penguin Random House, so thank you so much to them for gifting me one of my favorite books of 2019. Daisy Jones and the Six has been raved about on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter. Everyone is raving about this book and I'm about to do the same. So Daisy Jones and the Six is told like an oral history, and I know a lot of people might not know what that means. So picture the format of a play where it has just straight up dialogue and it has the character's name and then their dialogue. That's basically how this book is written. So Daisy Jones and the Six is kind of like a documentary. It follows these characters, part of this band called Daisy Jones and the Six. It follows their rise to fame and also follows the reason why their band broke up and was kind of just extinguished. They were on fire for years and years, everyone loved them, and then one day they just burnt out. What really makes this book is the fact that it's told in oral history. It's a very different type of writing style, and I've always wanted to write a book in this similar style. I think it's so fascinating. If you love reading plays, I think you would love Daisy Jones and the Six. I think Taylor Jenkins Reid is just on a roll when it comes to her writing. She really knows how to delve deeper into a piece of history, make it all her own, fictionalize it, and make it feel completely authentic. When you're reading this novel, you feel like Daisy Jones and the Six and their famous last album, Aurora, is real, and when you're reading it, you're like, oh, I want to go on Spotify and go listen to Aurora, but you can't because it's not a real album and this isn't a real band, but it completely feels real. It feels like these characters are real. It feels like a piece of history that you're learning more about, and it's just so well written. It's so wonderful. I do have to say that Evelyn Hugo is my favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid book, but this is obviously second because I've only read 2 of her novels, but she is just such a wonderful writer. I really like the fact that she's delving into different parts of history and creating books around that, because Evelyn Hugo is about old Hollywood. This is about the 1960s rock era. I'm not that knowledgeable about rock history, so I feel like even if you're like me and you don't know a lot about rock history, you're still going to get something out of this book. I thought I would feel kind of out of the loop reading this book, but it's not real. It's not a real band, so you don't feel like you have to know a lot about rock history, real rock history, in order to understand the complexities of this book. It deals with alcoholism, it deals with secret relationships, it deals with the price of fame, it deals with people having this incredible tension and how they hate each other, but they also have deep feelings for each other. And you're probably going to see this particular book in another recent reads video because I have the audiobook on hold. I read this first in print, absolutely adored it, and then I heard Hannah from A Clockwork Reader talk about how the audiobook is wonderful because it's a full cast. So I cannot wait to hear that and just like fall in love with the story all over again and see it from a very different perspective, because reading it is much different than hearing it with a full cast, and I'm just so excited for that. This is definitely one of my favorite books of 2019. Words cannot describe how much I love it. I highly recommend it. I know it's very hyped up and I know a lot of people are hesitant to pick it up, but if you like play formats, if you like rock and roll, if you like Taylor Jenkins Reid's books and historical fiction, you're gonna love this book. So after reading Daisy Jones and the Six, I listened to Frostblood by Elly Blake. Frostblood is a book that I've had on my TBR for a while, and I was like, I want to bring down my TBR, but I want to do it in a very quick way, so I'm like, audiobooks. So I listened to an audiobook. It's basically a fantastical world split up by people who can control fire and people who can control ice. And that's basically the plot of the story. Like I've said before in many videos, I'm very hard to impress with fantasy. I find it very hard to delve into new worlds and just like completely get it and like it, and Frostblood was not my favorite. I have no real issues with Frostblood, it's just kind of forgettable. I feel like there's not anything really new. I feel like some tropes were used in this that I've seen so many times in fantasy books where I was just like, meh, it's okay. It wasn't a memorable audiobook, it was just kind of like an audiobook to pass the time. I know the author pitches it as Zuko and Katara type of a relationship, but the roles are reversed. So the girl can control fire and the guy can control ice. So that's a little bit different. It was really cool to see that, but it was nothing to write home about per se. So yes, on to the next book. So the next book I read was a poetry book. It's called This Is the Journey by Alison Malee. I'm not really going to delve deeper into my thoughts about poetry books. I'm just going to let you know I read it. It's a modern poetry book cataloging this writer's life within a decade, and it's just very personal, but I did not connect with it compared to other modern poetry books that I've read. It was like Frostblood, it was nothing to write home about, but there were certain poems that hit me, but like not enough in order for me to be like, wow, you have to read this poetry book. So I read that to also pass the time. The next book I listened to on audiobook was fantastic, and it is Tyler Johnson Was Here by J. Coles. This book has been in my sights because the cover is gorgeous. I cannot think of a prettier cover than this one. It's just so beautiful. I love the art style of it, and I just had I can't say I had a lot of fun with it because like the topic was so heavy, but I had a good time hearing this book because the narrator was so wonderful. I would pitch it as something similar to Thug, The Hate U Give. It's about a boy named Marvin, and his brother Tyler goes to a party one day and he goes missing, and then one day they find out that he was actually shot by a cop, and it's on a video. And it's basically dealing with the fact that these two brothers who were very close with each other were separated without a word, without any warning, and it's dealing with the fact that there's police brutality. It's dealing with the fact that Marvin is told to kind of like move on with his life, to apply to college, to just not seek out justice, but he wants to seek out justice for his brother. It's a very hard-hitting book, and I really enjoyed it. The narrator was so wonderful. He really packed the emotion into the novel, and I also really enjoyed the fact that Marvin is a very emotional teenage boy. I feel like you don't see that a lot in YA. They're always very stoic and they're very hardcore, but Marvin has gone through a very serious situation and he has a lot of emotions that he wants to let out. He wants to talk about justice. He also has to talk about the fact that he lost his brother, and his mom is also grieving in a very different way than he is. And it's just a very melancholic book dealing with grief, dealing with police brutality, and I think it's a very important book to read about. If you're a fan of The Hate U Give, I highly implore you to read about Tyler Johnson Was Here. It's a very quick audiobook to listen to, and I'm pretty sure it's a very quick book to read as well. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was very well written. It was wonderful, and J. Coles, I cannot wait to see what he does next because I really liked the way he had a very personable and like very chatty narrator, and I just really enjoyed delving into Marvin's thoughts and like the process of his grief and the fact that he's trying to seek justice for his brother while also trying to somewhat move on with his life, and it's a very difficult situation, and I thought this book did it wonderfully. The next book that I read was Don't Date Rosa Santos by Nina Moreno. I would pitch this as a book you have to read on the beach or during the summer because it's a very summery book. It's set in Florida. It's following this girl named Rosa, and she lives with her grandma because her mom is always traveling around America as a muralist. I'm just gonna read you the little blurb at the top because I feel like that can tell you a lot more about the book, and it says, "For fans of Gilmore Girls and to all the boys I've loved before, this effervescent love story from debut author Nina Moreno will sweep you away." And it's very much like Gilmore Girls because it deals with a very eccentric mother who is very different, a very serious daughter, and a very serious grandmother, and they all have a very different type of personality, but they mesh well together. And this is also set in a very cute small town that Rosa Santos is trying to save because it's threatened to be kind of like torn down and put condominiums up in their town, and they don't want that. They want to maintain the authentic realness, cuteness of their town. So Rosa is trying to not only save her town, but she's trying to apply to a college that has a study abroad program going to Cuba because she's never been to Cuba, so she wants to finally see it, but she doesn't want to let her grandma know because her grandma was exiled from Cuba, and she has some very tough feelings about Cuba. And I had a lot of fun with it. It wasn't like my favorite book in the world, but I did have a lot of fun with it. All the characters in the town were so diverse. I loved that so much when the side characters are also diverse. I feel like that's very important in order to make the whole world seem very real, and I feel like not a lot of authors do that. And it's such a simple thing to add into a book in order to make people feel validated and in order to make it feel like a real world setting. And I just loved how the town was described. I loved Rosa's attitude and ambitions in life because she's a very studious person, and I relate to it so hard. I feel like if you want to read a book about a really cute small town, if you want to read something similar to Gilmore Girls with the motherly relationships and the grandmotherly relationships, and if you just want a very cute summary read, Don't Date Rosa Santos is a lovely novel. The next book I read on audiobook was probably my least favorite book of 2019 so far, and it is Ruby Red by Kierstin Gier. I know a lot of people read this in early booktube days, and I've had this book on my TBR for years, and I was like, I have to get rid of this book. I have to clean out my TBR. I cannot be staring at this book on my shelf for years to come. I need to just get it out of my way. It's about time travel, and that's it. It's about time travel. It's about a girl who finds out that she can time travel, but the fantasy world, it was very confusing. The narrator themselves was not my favorite narrator. Their voice was just annoying, and by the time you listen to this audiobook for hours, you kind of get annoyed with the narrator, and you're like, can you just stop talking? It's like listening to someone with an annoying voice. You're just like, I can't listen to you for any longer, and that's what it felt like listening to that audiobook. I feel like that issue alone really ruined my enjoyment of the book. I'm sure if I read it, I could have enjoyed it a little bit more. I gave this 2 stars, I think, on Goodreads, and I don't know, it was just a fantasy novel that I may have liked when I was younger, but because I put it off for so many years and because it kind of dated itself, it just didn't capture me because I have higher standards for fantasy novels after reading some pretty good ones. The next book I read is a poetry collection, so it's not a book, and it is Any Dream You Saw a Way to Survive by Clementine von Radics. Any Dream You Saw a Way to Survive was a kind of like dealing with bad relationships, moving on, and just like how you survive life. Again, this is like the other poetry book. It was nothing to write home about. It was just something to pass the time and to increase my challenge of reading 100 books in a year. So another book that wasn't that memorable.
Some of y'all about to be real mad at me, but it must be said.
I read The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee, and I gave that 2 stars. The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue was talked about a lot, I feel like, last summer, and I've had this book on my shelf for months as well. Can you tell the trend that I'm trying to decrease my TBR? I decided to pick up this book, and I know a lot of people love it. I know a lot of people that I trust love this novel, and it's about this boy named Monty who was traveling around Europe. It's called a tour. It's what people did back then before they kind of settled down and became a real adult. So he's traveling with his best friend, what's his name? He's traveling with his best friend Percy and his sister who has to tag along as well. And he's secretly in love with Percy, and he has to deal with those feelings while being on tour. And I thought this book would be like a road trip. I thought they would just be on a road trip, feelings would develop, chaos would ensue, but this book got so convoluted. There were pirates involved, there were like witches involved, there was like a special key that they had to find. I'll be honest, at the end of this book, I was skimming it. I did not enjoy this book. I will admit I did enjoy the first couple 20 pages or 30 pages of this book. I thought that Monty and Percy had a very nice dynamic in the beginning, but as you read on in the book, Monty is just a very selfish character, and he's very self-centered. I feel like every single issue that happened, he's like, but what about me? What about my feelings? Like, even when it's dealing with Percy's issues and Percy's medical issues, because he has epilepsy, I feel like Monty made it all about himself, and I feel like there was no character development. I feel like he just maintained this very selfish personality, and I just could not take it. And I know some people are like, oh, he's flawed, but like, I don't have to like every main character, just like you don't have to like every single person in the world, and I don't like Monty. I feel like if I met Monty on the street, I would hate him. That's the only way I could describe it, and that feeling maintained throughout the entire novel. There was no development in his character, and it was just so convoluted. The book was like 500 pages. It did not need to be 500 pages whatsoever. I'm sorry, it must be said. So I gave that 2 out of 5 stars. The next book I read on audiobook, and I had so much fun with it. This is also another novel that I wanted to read, which was on my physical TBR in order to decrease it. I'm basically going to just title this video Reading Things That Have Been on My TBR for Months. The book that I read was Murder of Roger Ackroyd, or Ackroyd, I don't know. I got this novel in Costco years ago, so many years ago. I believe I was still in like high school, and I'm a senior in college, so I got this years ago. I tried to read it, could not connect with it, so I'm like, I'm just gonna put this away. I'm not going to unhaul it, but I'm just gonna put it away for a while. And then a couple weeks ago, I was like, I want to read this book and finish it, mainly because it's been said to have the best plot twist in an Agatha Christie book, and I'm like, I love plot twists, so have to read it. And reading on audiobook was such an experience. I really enjoyed it. It was very easy to follow along with on an audiobook. I was listening to this novel while I was doing chores, while I was doing my makeup, while I was doing my hair. The entire time I'm like gasping because there are so many plot twists. Agatha Christie novels are always jam-packed with action, so this was such a time. It was so wonderful. I had a lot of fun with it. I do have to do like a story time about this though, because I googled the character list because I wanted to put a face to a name to remember these characters and like who they are, what their profession was. And don't do that. Don't do that for any book that's like very old, because I searched up these characters' names in order to like familiarize myself with their names, and I got spoiled for the plot twist. But I feel like that was also kind of good for me because I saw it coming and you could see all the clues coming your way, and it was a different experience. I kind of wish I wasn't spoiled, but it happened. Can't fight against it. Still a fun experience. The next book I read is I Believe in a Thing Called Love. This is the cutest story ever. Along with Don't Date Rosa Santos, you should also read I Believe in a Thing Called Love if you're looking for summery, cute books to read at the beach, but if you live in the middle of like a country, to read outside. I Believe in a Thing Called Love follows a girl named Desi, and this new boy comes into school, and she is a very awkward person when it comes to people she has feelings for. So one day she comes home and her dad is watching K-dramas. She always makes fun of her dad who watches K-dramas because she thinks they're cheesy, they're predictable, they all have the same sort of structure, but she decides to sit down one day and watch a K-drama with him. That turns into 2 K-dramas, and then 3 K-dramas all within a weekend. And she's like, all these K-dramas have a specific structure for their story. What if I wrote down that specific structure and used it to make this boy fall in love with me? And that's basically the story. It's the cutest thing ever. If you love K-dramas, you're gonna love this book. I've never seen a K-drama and I still freaking love this book. It was the cutest thing ever. I also really enjoyed how Desi, the main character, is very much like Lara Jean. She loves lists, she's very organized, she knows what she wants, she's a very cute and fashionable and awkward girl. If you love To All the Boys I've Loved Before, ooh, you gotta read this book. We're at the end! The last book, my 30th book I read in 2019. We're finally hitting the right number at the end of these videos. The last book I read was a graphic novel. I decided to take this out of my library and read it during the weekend because I know I can read a graphic novel in like an hour, so I did. And it is Be Prepared by Vera Brosgol. It's basically about a 9-year-old girl who goes to a Russian summer camp. Because she's Russian, she doesn't feel like she fits in with her school friends, so she begs her mom to take her to a Russian camp because she feels like she could probably connect with those people more because they're from the same nation as her and they probably have the same experiences. And this book is so cute. It has a very green hue, a very naturey, earthy type of feel to it. I just had a lot of fun with it. The storyline wasn't the best in the world. I feel like there are better storylines for graphic novels, but if you're looking for a very cutesy type of a read, Be Prepared is adorable. You should definitely take it out from your library, give it a try. It's cute. It wasn't my favorite graphic novel in the world, but it was something cute to read and just kind of like made me smile because I love reading cutesy type of middle grade-y graphic novels because they just like bring me so much joy and like make me feel like fuzzy inside. Those are all the books that I've read so far in 2019. We are up to 30, so the next video should be 31 to 40 if we can count correctly. We being me, because I can't do math, but we're hoping I'll count right the next time. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you read any of these books because I would love to start a discussion. Also, please leave recommendations down below for cute graphic novels and cute contemporaries because I'm always on the hunt for those. And also, it would mean a lot to me if you clicked the bell icon and subscribe and like and comment and just like support this channel. If you like this channel, if it brings you joy, be sure to hit the bell icon. That's the most important thing because YouTube recently released the fact that if you subscribe to a channel, you might not see every single video that they post, but if you hit the bell icon, you are sure to see every single video that your favorite content creator posts. So that's very important. Please keep that in mind. It not only helps you, but it also supports me as well. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this setting. It's not the car, but it's still a cute setting because like the weather is getting too hot to film in a car, so this is the next best thing until this gets too hot. Then I'll find a different location to film in. But I had so much fun talking about these books. I still have my coffee to finish, but thank you so much for watching. You are all so kind to me, and just like your support and your love and your happiness just like kind of like fills me up with love, support, and happiness. So I'll see you in another video. Be sure to have a good day and happy reading, and I will see you later. Bye!